Inspiring content to watch while you're knitting or working on your projects can pop up in a lot of unlikely places. And for today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you 7 videos you can tune into right now on YouTube that will keep you inspired while you stitch away on your projects. So if that sounds like just your cozy cup of, in this case, iced green tea, get comfy and let's dive in. Hello, and welcome to the Wool Needles Hands Midweek Ramble. My name is Taylor, and I will be your host. I'm excited to share today's video with you because it involves finding knitting or fiber arts related content in surprising places on YouTube. I've been kind of exploring outside the box of knitting podcasts and knitting podcast channels, trying to find little bits and pieces of this craft in places that maybe you wouldn't think to look. And some of these videos might be a little bit more on the nose than others. However, some of them may surprise you in terms of who's presenting them or where I found them, and they might be little bits of inspiration that you can watch that kind of shakes it up a little bit and keeps your knitting time or crochet time or whatever project you're working on time content interesting and vibrant and new. Now, each of these videos I will link to down below as well as their creators. Some of these are coming from channels that may be less active currently, and some of them are coming from channels that are very active. However, their main content area is not necessarily knitting or fiber arts related. Okay, the first video I want to share with you guys today, or I guess I should say the first recommendation for you to go watch that I want to share with you guys today, is by a creator here on YouTube named Rajiv Surendra. He is wonderful. I love Rajiv so much. Okay, so if you are familiar with the movie Mean Girls that came out, I don't even know, a decade ago, then you'll be familiar with this particular character that I show you here.
Like me now! You like that?
He was the character in the movie who's on the Mathletes team. And yeah, so you may be familiar with this particular character. Well, that is Rajiv Surendra. He's a Canadian actor, and he's kind of turned into more of a Renaissance man YouTube content creator, focusing on the small but valuable things in life that we tend to overlook, but that can really add a lot of joy to our day to day. It's really hard to put like him into a box, and I feel like if you want to know more about Rajiv, you need to go check out his channel. It's a self-titled channel, and it's fabulous. If you love to just sit down and watch somebody talk about something they're passionate about, but in a way that is calming and soothing and just very pleasant, you need to check out Rajiv. He might not be for you, he might be for you. He's kind of one of the, I don't want to say he's an acquired taste, I don't believe that at all. I think he's lovely, but you know, everybody has preferences, but you definitely need to check him out for all of his content. And I watch all of his content and I love it. Well, just the other day, actually, while I was in the process of putting this video together, he popped up a video that I was like, wait, did he know that I was producing a video on, you know, unlikely places to find fun knitting and fiber arts related content? But he posts a video where he talks about what he calls the melancholy history of the knitted Gansey or Guernsey sweater.
Hi, I'm Rajiv, and today I'm going to talk to you about my favorite garment to wear, the Gansey.
Rajiv so happens to be a knitter, which I think is lovely and amazing. His channel is not a knitting channel, but he does happen to be a knitter, which doesn't surprise me. He's definitely a genuine Renaissance man. And so this video made a lot of sense because he knits, and he's actually knitting a Gansey at the time that this video was produced. He's knitting a Gansey, which I think is awesome. Well, he shares this video and he talks about what he loves about the knit Gansey. He shares a few knitted Ganseys that he has had hand knit for himself, which I think is amazing. And he talks about the history of the knitted Gansey or Guernsey, depending on where you are. And I think that this is really fascinating because this is a garment that I've always had an interest in learning more about. The Gansey or the Guernsey and the Aran sweater are similar in their histories, but different in their regions, I think you could say. But they're both, and also different in their technique and design. but they're both interesting garments to learn more about the history, and that's something I want to explore more here on the channel. But in the meantime, I definitely recommend you check this video out. And it's only a 14-minute video, so it's a really small slice of time that you can just add to your schedule to give yourself a moment to sit down, focus on this video, get some knitting done, do the dishes, do some vacuuming, whatever, but also kind of feel like you're feeding that inspiration for the fiber arts that you obviously know and love. So I love this video. Rajiv Surendra, you need to check out his channel in general, but definitely head over and check out this video if you'd like to know more about the knitted Gansey, or if you'd like to hear more about it from the perspective of someone who is, like I said, kind of a Renaissance man and one who absolutely appreciates the craft of knitting. Okay, this next video is from Art Insider, which is a channel here on YouTube, and this video focuses on some of the most expensive fibers known to man and how those fibers are produced. And I think this is a really fascinating rabbit hole to go down if you are involved in fiber arts in any capacity.
Communities around the world rely on harvesting some of the rarest known fibers to make a living. But for most, it's not an easy task.
Because fiber is the foundation of what we do, it's important to understand how that fiber is produced and what kind of work goes into some of the most valuable forms of fiber. This one's interesting. It doesn't it's not all knitting fiber arts related, but there is some element of textile arts in this video, and I think it's absolutely fascinating. From vicuña fleece and even indigo dyed denim, it kind of covers a broad spectrum of some of the finest forms of fiber and textiles known. And I think it's really important that we fuel our background knowledge with this information so that we can understand what goes into this textile production and these fibers. And I always love diving down those rabbit holes. So this one's really interesting. It's a small bite at under 10 minutes in terms of total length, but it's one that you're definitely going to want to have in your back pocket. If you only have 10 minutes of time, you want something to watch, you want to get some knitting done, and you want to feed some of that background knowledge and context for, I don't know, future conversations, or just to have in your personal knowledge bank as a knitter, crocheter, or fiber artist. Okay, this next one popped up as I was kind of researching and looking for content for this video. It was recommended to me, suggested to me on YouTube, which I was so thankful for, because I don't know if I would have found this otherwise, because this person's channel is absolutely unrelated to knitting and fiber arts, except for this one short documentary.
I'm currently headed to a remote island in northern Scotland known as the Fair Isle. It has a total population of 55. Yeah, it's pretty small. But anyways, let me tell you a little bit about myself.
The creator of the documentary, his name is Benjamin Burton, and he was at the time of making this documentary, I want to say it's a few years old now, he was a sophomore at Willamette University in Oregon, and he wanted to do a documentary study on Fair Isle knitting, as he is an avid knitter. The documentary showcases Burton's journey to the remote Fair Isle in northern Scotland, the passionate knitters and historians who preserve this craft, and the serene and welcoming community of the island. And you can tell he has such an affection and care for the craft and curiosity for this particular facet of the craft, being Fair Isle knitting, and his desire to go to the Shetland Islands, to go to the Fair Isle and learn more about this offshoot of the knitting craft. I don't even know if you would call it an offshoot, but this particular technique and regional form of knitting I thought was really special, and he did a fantastic job. I felt like the content was so rich. And so if you want to appreciate somebody's own kind of personally created documentary about Fair Isle knitting, where they actually take a trip to Shetland, to the Fair Isle, to talk to people and interview them about this process, then look no further, because Benjamin Burton does an absolutely fabulous job with this. I'm so thankful that YouTube suggested this video to me, because it is a really unlikely place to find some really good knitting content, and I thought that he did such a great job. So that is called Fair Isle Knitting. It's a short documentary by Benjamin Burton. Moving just northwest of the Shetland Islands, the next documentary takes us to the Faroe Islands.
These 5 people celebrate their Faroese heritage with their passion for wool and knitting. In their own different ways, they have devoted their professional lives to this passion.
This documentary is called The Wool Islands, and it highlights the cultural and professional dedication of 5 individuals to wool and knitting, showcasing their efforts to meld tradition with contemporary design to maintain their Faroese heritage. From the international fashion house of Gudrun & Gudrun to local designers and sheep farmers, the narrative reveals how wool has shaped the island's identity, its culture, its economy for over 450 years, transitioning from a vital export to a symbol of sustainable and local craftsmanship in modern times. Knitting as we know it today and as we practice it today can sometimes feel removed from its tradition and its heritage. And so if you can take these deep dives into places and regions of the world far, far away from your own, and in some cases maybe not that far at all, and learn a bit more about those traditions and that heritage, and it kind of helps you to appreciate and not take for granted that craft that we love so much. Okay, this next video is kind of an outlier in that it's not a full video. It's actually a 5-minute trailer for a much larger documentary. I want to say the documentary is 30 to 45 minutes long. However, here's the kicker. If you live outside of Canada, it's really hard to watch this particular documentary. I happened upon the trailer and was fascinated by what it was promoting. However, I'm not able to actually watch this documentary because it's not offered to me here in the United States, unless of course I have a VPN. And it's funny because I feel like any other channel would use this as an opportunity to pull a sponsor for a VPN company, but I don't have a VPN, so I can't actually access this full documentary, and I would really love to. So if you happen to know how to watch the documentary I'm about to share with you, let me know. I am in the United States. I'm outside of Canada, and it's just not something I have been able to figure out how to do. But the documentary I'm referring to here is The Kaishan Sweater, Our Knitted Legacy.
Kaishan sweaters are love. Kaishan sweaters are history. Kaishan sweaters are future. Kaishan sweaters are warmth. This is a sweater that I will be able to pass on, and something that will remind me of home and of family and of our culture and tradition.
Now, the Kaishan sweater is a particular sweater that you have seen before, but probably didn't know was deeply rooted in a particular cultural identity, and that is of the Coast Salish people in northern US and the Western Canadian territories. This is a traditional design of a sweater. It has lots of tradition built into not only the aesthetics of the sweater in terms of its motifs, but also the construction of the sweater, the weight of the yarn used, the type of yarn used, the type of wool used, and it's really a beautiful textile tradition. But this particular trailer for this documentary took me down this rabbit hole. I had seen sweaters referred to as Kaishan sweaters before, and I didn't really know what that meant, and so I had done in the past some research to learn about this particular tradition of making sweaters, and this film documentary trailer really really piqued my interest in diving even further down this rabbit hole, which I have done since watching this trailer, but I would love to actually watch the full documentary. So if you have an opportunity to do that, definitely do. But from what I gather from this 5-minute trailer is that the documentary is going to take you deep into the tradition of the Kaishan sweater, the Salish knitters, the Coast Salish people, and how the ancestors and the elders have passed this tradition down to the younger people and the younger generations, and what it means to people in terms of their identity, in terms of their community, in terms of how they care for one another, and how they put their love and their identity as a people into something as beautiful and as useful as a gorgeous woolen sweater. I feel like there's so much passion in this story and rich heritage and culture surrounding this particular iconic garment or iconic style of sweater that it's important to know, and it's important to understand these things. Why these particular garments exist, where they come from, what is the cultural heritage tradition behind these garments, why are they made? I think having this information as a knitter who may find themselves knitting a pattern that is very similar or inspired by a particular type of garment that is a very traditional item, I think it's important to know this so that you can understand what you're involving yourself in, so you can understand what you're doing when you're creating a garment like this. I would love to watch the full documentary film. It's by Mary Galloway. The trailer that I'm providing you here is 5 minutes and definitely enough to get you inspired. And if you can figure out a way to watch this, if you're in Canada, as I know many of you are, and maybe even if you're outside of Canada, but outside of the United States also, you may have access to this somehow. I know it was on Apple TV for a while, but I can't access it there either. But just let me know if you're able to watch the full thing. I would really love to watch it myself. Definitely check out the trailer, and please let me know if you are able to find a way in the United States to watch the entire documentary. Even if I have to pay, it doesn't matter. I would like to watch it. Now, I love to learn about ancient knitting practices. I think that as knitters, if you are into history even remotely, you've probably asked the question, how long have people been knitting? What was the first knitting? And you've run into what is referred to as knallbinding. It's something that they discovered people were doing in ancient Egypt and all of this, and it's really fascinating. Well, in this short documentary by Dr. Smitty Nathan over on her YouTube channel, she talks about the archaeology and the ancient history of knitting.
Hi, I'm Dr. Smitty Nathan and I'm an archaeologist. In this video, we're going to explore the intriguing archaeology of knitting and how this practice transformed parts of the ancient world. So let's get into it.
And she gives it to you in a very typical explainer format like you would see on YouTube. It's kind of, I don't want to say cut and dry because I don't find it to be dry, but it gives you just like a gist of knitting going way back to like I think she at some point said that one of the earliest examples of a knit sock, which was actually knit in almost like a color work technique, goes back to 1300 BCE, if not further than that. And she gives you kind of a breakdown of knitting through ancient history. And I think it's fascinating, especially if you have young, kids in your family who are interested or might want to know that this is a tradition that goes that far back. It's not just something that's been around for like a few hundred years. We're talking ancient history that goes all the way back to the ancient Egyptians, and I think that's fascinating. So if you're into archaeology, if you're into ancient history, especially as it relates to the knitting craft, you're definitely going to want to check out How Knitting Transformed the Ancient World by Dr. Smitty Nathan. Her whole channel is archaeology based. It's not knitting based, but this one particular video highlighted knitting in ancient history, and I really loved it, and I think you will too. Okay, so this last one was this is kind of what kicked off this whole video, if you will. I stumbled across this particular video highlighting the Aran sweater. I don't know how I got here. I don't know what I was looking at, but I mean, YouTube knows I like to watch things related to knitting and knitwear and all of that, so it probably just sent it to me. Who knows? But I'm so happy that it did. This is called How a Working Class Sweater Became Desired by the Rich, and it's a video by Demetrios Levi.
For the past 2 months, I can't stop staring at this sweater. Okay, not like that, but whenever I see it, it still captivates me.
He has a YouTube channel. It's kind of just like a menswear and men's style channel, and it's fantastic. And he has obviously a knack for filmmaking because this video is so lovely and it's just so well put together, and it's humorous and lighthearted but also informative, and I love it. So what he does is he shares for you his love and fascination with the Aran sweater. Now, I will say he has his facts right. The only thing I noticed in this video is that he uses the word Ganzi and Aran interchangeably, I think 1 or 2 times in the video, and I think it was more that he's kind of comparing the two when he uses the words interchangeably. However, it is important to note that the Aran sweater and the Ganzi are not the same thing, and you wouldn't really use the word interchangeably traditionally speaking, because one comes from a different area, the Aran Islands off the coast of Ireland, and then one comes from the British Isles, and they kind of have different design elements. The Ganzi is a lot more knitting and purling, whereas the Aran sweater is much more heavy cabled. Okay, but other than that, and that's really not even a big deal, I'm just mentioning it here because I know there's a lot of discerning knitters that are probably going to pick up on that. However, he gives a really fantastic history of the Aran sweater, and he traces its history and evolution in the 16th century through, the Channel Islands, and how it eventually became coveted by the rich as a statement piece and staple item in any classic luxury wardrobe. He talks about major celebrities celebrities wearing these garments like Grace Kelly, and even more recently,
this is everything.
He goes into all of it and he presents it in a really fun, somewhat comical and lighthearted way that you're sure to enjoy. It's a small bite at 11.5 minutes long, but I'm telling you, you're going to love it. You're going to love learning a little bit more about the Aaron sweater and learning a little bit more about his perspective on this. As someone who is not a knitter, but it looks like his mother is a knitter, but as somebody who really cares a lot about fashion, and not just trendy fashion, but classic staple fashion as well. And so I really appreciated this. I appreciate his personality and the whole vibe of the video. It has a very Wes Anderson vibe, which I love about it. The coloring, the symmetry, all of that, which is great. So if you're into filmmaking and if you're into just kind of cinematography, you'll appreciate that, but you'll also appreciate it for its content because he really has it kind of down and the history is there and the visuals are there and it's just a lot of fun. So I wanted to share this here to kind of cap off the video. We talked about the Guernsey in the beginning, or the Gansey in the beginning, with Rajiv Surendra's video, and now we're going to talk about the Aaron sweater, which he kind of mentions the Gansey in there as well, with Demetrios Levi's video. And all of these, you guys, are really fun places to find some unexpected knitting content to keep you inspired and to really fuel the appreciation that you're sure to already have for this craft we love so much. I plan on doing more videos like this one in the future because I'm telling you, there are lots of fun bits and bites of content in the realm of fiber arts and knitting that you can dig up on YouTube if you search outside of the box of knitting podcast channels. Not saying that you need to abandon knitting podcast channels in general, because that's why you're here, and I appreciate you and I'm so happy you're here. But sometimes we want to shake it up a little bit and we want to see what else there is to learn. That's kind of my biggest takeaway from all of this, is that you can learn something from each of these videos that's, you know, a little bit deeper, I guess you could say, than just this is what I'm knitting, this is the yarn I bought, and all of that. So I wanted to provide that to you because I found these videos to be fascinating and interesting, and yeah, just wanted to send that along to you guys. So thank you for joining me for today's video. Check these videos out, let me know what you think, and definitely comment down below if you have some other suggestions for great, inspiring fiber arts related content that you can find in unlikely places. If you took value from today's video or enjoyed yourself at all, don't forget to give the video a thumbs up. Definitely subscribe and click that bell icon so you can be notified anytime I upload new content, which is every Wednesday and every Sunday. And until I see you for Sunday's episode of the Knitting Podcast, happy knitting, happy making, happy whatever it is that you're doing. Take care, be well, and I will see you soon. Bye. This documentary shares how wool has shaped the island's economy, culture, and identity for over 450 years. The narrative of this documentary shares how wool has shaped the identity, the culture, economy, culture, and identity. The island's economy, culture, and identity. The narrative of the documentary reveals how wool has shaped the economy, culture, the island's economy, culture, and identity. 450 years. Okay.